If he has invited himself in this manner, his practice will bear fruit just as if he had been successful in inviting the meditation. Object to bless him. Personification of the Dhamma by meditators in olden days seems to have been simply a means of teaching Dhamma at a certain time and place, and to a certain group of people who by nature believed everything to be possessed of magic power. Such beliefs are now outmoded. 9. Radiating loving kindness. Metta. The custom of radiating loving kindness towards all living beings before beginning the practice proper has been handed down to us through many channels, some based on reason and insight and some on faith and superstition. But the method of radiating loving kindness and the word used while doing so are constant. The most commonly used formula is, may all creatures, all living things, all beings, be free from hatred, difficulties, and troubles. And may they live in happiness. Anyone who radiates loving kindness out of superstition or fear has the wrong motivation altogether. He radiates loving kindness because he has been told that unless he does so the spirits are likely to create trouble, or the hungry ghosts will want a share of the merits, or the celestial beings will not help and support him. In such a case, the practice is wrongly motivated and completely out of keeping with its intended purpose. Sometimes the names of particular spirits of celestial beings are mentioned towards whom the loving kindness is being radiated, in the hope that they may in their turn help the performer of the rite. Thus people pray and curry favor, using loving kindness and the resulting merits to bribe those supposedly able to help. It is only through fear that such forms of practice have come into existence and the original objective of the practice lost sight of. Some forms of radiating loving kindness are phrased in an amusing way. For instance, may I be happy, free from suffering hatred, difficulties,
and troubles, and may I live in happiness. This really reflects fear and self-love on the part of the speaker. How could a person with such a weak mind ever put forth the effort necessary to realize impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-selfhood? With this kind of ritual he will only disturb his mind all the more, that some people on a strict meditation course see dreadful visions and become mentally deranged or even go completely mad as most. Probably due to fear of this kind, some people are so attached to wrong ideas, so misguided, that they become frightened without reason. To practice meditation in a state of fear is bound to result in conflict, which may in turn lead to mental derangement. The meditator must understand the true meaning of radiating loving kindness before beginning to practice it. Only then can he profit by it and avoid these conflicts and troubles. In radiating loving kindness towards all beings including his enemies, the meditator should reflect. Now I shall not cherish any feeling of enmity against anyone, I shall give up all enmity. Even if someone is doing me harm or even trying to kill me, I will bear no malice. In this way he will always be free from fear, even if he is practicing in a lonely, unprotected place. He should feel also that he is everybody's friend, or that everybody is his partner in the enterprise of mental development. Because his practice is intended to end the suffering of all beings as well as of himself. The meditator should think of all beings surrounding him as friends who fully support his practice. 10. Reciting the virtues of the Triple Gem. At some meditation centers the meditator is required to recite the virtues of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha before beginning the practice. The three famous formulas, beginning with the words Itapi So, Svakato, and Supatipanno, are generally recited without thought for their meaning. Some people have no idea of their meaning, so that the reciting of them
becomes another mere ritual, and in some cases it even becomes a superstition, when people invoke the virtues of the Triple Gem to protect themselves during the practice. They actually believe the Triple Gem has some strange power and regard the Pali phrases as holy, magical formulas. If, however, a person recollects sincerely and faithfully the virtues of the Triple Gem, rather than just reciting or chanting them, in order to develop joy and delight in the practice, that is, of course, in order. The meditator who wishes to observe this custom should be sufficiently careful and discriminating not to take this reciting of the virtues of the Triple Gem as an invocation to some powerful spirit or ghost. He should not superstitiously make the Buddha into a supernatural being. The meditator should reflect that I have been living a righteous life up to now, unhindered, favored with the chance to practice for higher achievements, is all due to the virtues of the triple gem. Henceforth I shall live my life in conformity with the triple gem. I shall attain the ultimate goal of life by devoting my whole being to the triple gem. Recollecting the virtues of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha in this way, he will have the joy, delight, zeal, and energy to practice earnestly. 11. Resolving to practice. This custom is meant to strengthen the willpower and make the meditator more firm and resolute in his practice. He should make himself feel at ease by recollecting that all the Aryans or noble ones, including the Buddha himself, have trodden this very path of practice that he is now about to follow, should say inwardly, the practice by way of which the Buddha and his disciples have attained nirvana is mindfulness, the one and only way, which each individual must follow for himself. Having thus reassured himself that mindfulness or satipatthana, which he is about to practice, is the one true way, the meditator firmly resolves to persevere in his practice.
This is the sole objective of this custom, but people who are attached to the idea of magical powers cannot help twisting the meaning of even this custom. They take it as a sort of submission, which is of course completely wrong. Apparently an ever-present instinctive need to change and distort the meaning of good customs exists in people who are timid or superstitious. This distortion of a meaningful custom demonstrates clearly how beliefs motivated by desire and based on misunderstanding can never lead to the highest insight. Resolving to practice is something the meditator must definitely do in order to strengthen his willpower and prepare himself to practice seriously. He must receive full instructions concerning the meditation object given him and be sure it is suitable for his particular kind of mental imperfections and suffering and able to solve effectively his various problems. Only when he has such an understanding and confidence will his resolve to practice be meaningful. This way of strengthening willpower is required not only for the practice of mental training but for doing any kind of work at all. But as a preliminary to mental training, it is based on precise and definite principles. The more the trainee studies, and especially the more he practices, the more his willpower is strengthened, so that he has no difficulty living up to his resolutions. For the trainee to look to the Buddha or anyone else to help him keep his resolution to practice is once again mere superstitious ritualism. He must move ever forward, never backward into the abyss of ignorance, never living in the world of magical powers. Every step of the meditator's practice must be guided by all the reason, intelligence, and insight he has at his disposal. 12. Paying homage to the Buddha by way of practice. This custom is observed every day or each time when the practice is over. The meditator, so to speak, makes his practice his offering in homage to the Buddha or the Triple Gem.
This is Padapati Puja. Paying homage by practice. It is the highest kind of homage and contrasts with Amisa Puja, paying homage by offering material gifts. Each time when the practice is over, the meditator recites 3 times, Amayadamanudama Padapati Puja Budham Dhammam Sangham Pujimi. I pay homage to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha by practicing Dhamma in conformity with Dhamma. Clearly this custom was designed in conformity with the Buddha's words, praising the person who pays homage to him by way of his own practice rather than by offering gifts. Meditation is the highest form of practice, so for a meditator to observe this custom is praiseworthy and rational, unless of course he follows it blindly and just for the sake of tradition. This Padapati Puja is the last thing to be done each day when the practice is over. Of the various customs and rites so far discussed, some can be seen to have come into being as a result of the imperfections and desires of teachers and their disciples, who have either introduced new rites of their own or have changed existing ones to suit their own beliefs and wishes. The meditator must carefully judge these various rites, keeping in mind the true purpose of meditation. Only then can they be conducive to success in his practice, and not just blind faith or superstition. Unless the meditator discriminates in this way, these rituals may conflict with the development of insight, creating unnecessary trouble for him, making him the laughingstock of discriminating people, or even, in an extreme case, sending him mad. If the meditator is not careful and circumspect in this matter of traditional practices, it will harm not only himself but the Buddhist religion as a whole. To sum up, the practices classed as preliminaries to the mental training proper are not by any means all mere ritualism, provided their significance is correctly understood.
Some of them are duties incumbent on the meditator, and some are techniques for strengthening the mind so that it can make smooth progress. Each practice has its own virtue, its own purpose. The meditator must be cautious and try to discern the true meaning of each of them. In applying the techniques particularly designed to strengthen willpower, the meditator must, if he is to achieve success, be well aware of his own mental makeup or temperament. He may use techniques other than those mentioned here, such as reflecting on death, or on the limited time he has in which to attain the best thing attainable by man, or on the virtues of his benefactors, for instance his parents, or on his duty to practice earnestly for the sake of others, to spread the Dhamma and, by way of example, to guide others along the path to freedom. All such devices may be resorted to in order to strengthen the mind. The important point is, however, that the meditator should feel certain that he is doing just what he ought to be doing, and doing it properly. All these preliminaries have to be taken into account by the person preparing himself to practice meditation. End of Chapter 1.